I'm Juan Logan. I'm from Belmont, North Carolina, just outside of Charlotte. I'm a painter, sculptor, printmaker. I make lots of things in lots of different media. Well, I think Mobile is going to be a really, really interesting adventure because I'm interested in going over to Africa Town, interested in making around the Mobile River, and simply learning more about Mobile. You know, I'm trying to bring my experiences to a city that I've never visited before. That's it. You're just enjoying yourself, aren't you?
Well, I've admired Juan's work since we first met in 2018 and was watching the film Descendant. And there is a scene at the end when Joycelyn Davis is being interviewed at the Smithsonian's National Museum of African American History and Culture, and Juan's painting is over her shoulder.
All right.
Welcome to Mobile.
Indeed. Thank you.
It's a painting I've visited several times, and I was reflecting on Juan's work and what I had learned from the film, and felt like we needed to do this exhibition together. And we're right over here. One of the things that makes him unique as an artist is he can work in any style, in any medium, and it always looks good. And there is always a through line that I take away from my time with Juan and my experience of his work, and that is that he asks you to look at the world and ask better questions, the types of questions that we need to be asking if we want to create stronger communities and deeper relationships among people. And the work is important and challenges me every time to ask those questions.
Well, actually, he called and said he has something to talk with me about. Came to visit, actually, and we talked about it. And I've been enthusiastic about it from the first start, if you will. I always photograph my work just to take it out of my studio. So every day I work on it, I photograph it before I leave, so I can look at it away from my space. It always appears differently for me. And seeing it in this space will be very, very different seeing it here than in my studio or any other space. And I guess it's sort of that opportunity to see it just that way. It's something you perhaps always imagined. It's what you wanted for the work.
Mitty, this is a friend of mine, and this is Juan Logan.
Hi there, how are you? Good to meet you as well, indeed. Thank you.
A couple months in the making now. I went down and visited with Juan in March as part of the trip that I was on to Charlotte for Art Bridges. And we're talking about the elegies, and I've asked him about the body of work and if he'd consider allowing us to exhibit it here at MMofA, and was so grateful that he was enthusiastic about the idea. My next stop was to visit with Commissioner Ludgood, who agreed that having Juan in our community is a great gift, and supported our ability to do the exhibition and commissioned Juan to do a major painting about Africa Town and the descendants. And so here we are together. This is Juan's first research trip. It's really surreal to have him here, somebody I look up to and have learned so much from since our first meeting in 2018. I'll be quiet now and let you all learn from the reason he came.
Good afternoon. I have been making art. I was mentioning early on that I made my first piece of sculpture in 1960. So I've been at this a long time. Actually, I got into sculpture before painting. My school, high school, didn't have art at all, but we had shop. So Harold McLean, the shop teacher, asked me to make whatever we so desired. So I made this eagle, had a 5-foot wingspan, carved it out of white pine. And the important thing there is that it didn't have to look like anyone else's, it could just be mine. And that was about developing your own personal language, if you will. So that was sort of the jumping off point for me. And so from 1960 forward, that's what I've been doing. My job has never been to provide answers to the questions that I raise. That's never been my job. It's always to ask better questions, to deepen my investigation, to find ways to perhaps explore a topic, subjects on a deeper level. And with that in mind, so that my audience may ask their own questions. The series I'm working on right now is Elegies, and while Elegies normally deals with poems for the dead, or it can also be a very, very serious reflection. So I think of it more as a serious reflection on memory. Oftentimes the whole narrative isn't explained to you, isn't told to you, because they don't know it anymore either. So you express it in those fragments.
Face this way.
Africa Town.
All right. We start from here because this is where our great city started from. Here's the sign. It says, "Welcome to Africa Town." This is the old cemetery. Cudjoe Lewis was the oldest surviving member of the Clotilda. He lived to be 95 years old, and there were other families, but Cudjoe outlived them. So he got a chance to tell the story, and he became the limelight. He helped establish the cemetery, the church across the street, which is Union Baptist Church, and then Mobile County Training School, the oldest African-American training school in the state. They placed this marker here to honor Cudjoe Lewis. That chimney up here is probably one of the only structures, original structures in the community.
Really? What I was saying is, this story really isn't about the ship.
Exactly.
The ship was just a means of transport. It had nothing to do with the people and their resilience.
When people see that those 110 people were in an area about the size of a ranch-style den, they're gonna have a whole different concept.
We're talking about a community that has been used and abused in so many different ways, who have been robbed, oftentimes their property, so many things, historically. So it's great to see those things being preserved. Another, that the larger community now knows about them, and they're going to work hard to preserve those things as well, and at least pass the story on. When I get back to the studio, I'll start digesting that information, that we have dealt with, and see exactly what it's going to look like. Certainly hearing about things is wonderful, but seeing makes all the difference in the world. In 2017, I started working on a series called Elegies, and normally when you think of elegies, you think of it as a poem for the dead. I've always thought about it more as a serious reflection, and this, in my case, is a serious reflection about memory, the absence of it, the fragmentation of it, the loss of it, both collectively and otherwise. And so for all these years, I've been trying to record, trying to look at other people's narratives, aside from just mine alone, and realizing, of course, that while most people, can't give you the whole story, they seldom can. So my paintings express it in terms of fragments. So they end up being very abstract, but that's simply the nature of things. And I think life is very much that way.
Yes, sir. How do you do?
I'm well, thank you. I hope you are.
I'm wonderful. Nice to meet you. I'm Sandy Stimpson.
Juan Logan.
Good to see you,
Good to
Mr.
see you
Logan.
as well.
Come on in.
Just call me Juan.
Okay, Juan. Call me Sandy.
All right, Sandy. It's also the idea that many times when we talk about memory and understanding something like that, we don't always record, witnesses don't always record, events accurately, because everyone standing on the corner watching something take place, and all 5 people who watched this thing take place remember it differently. So while they all saw it, yes, but did they really? This is the painting. The painting is 6.5 feet tall and 16 feet long.
Okay.
Right. And dealing with all the issues, in making the piece, I wanted to talk about the people, not how they got there, not anything associated with any of that.
Okay.
But the fact that they continued on with their lives.
Okay.
Since they couldn't get back this little green and white stripe, that's Nigeria's map. So that's a flag.
Right.
But in looking back, though, they realized they could never get back.
Right.
So they had to move forward. So the title of the piece is Without Stopping.
I know
So
you really,
this pattern
you
of
most of the
cloth
time
here.
don't tell people what your paintings meant, but you made an exception this time and
Yep.
like to show him. was that hard for you to do that?
Not at all. He was open to hearing, to learning about the piece. Very kind man. I enjoyed his company.
Amazing. Really amazing. And so this is going to be at the Heritage House.
No.
Smith,
I made a smaller piece for the Heritage House. That's only about this size.
Okay.
And as I said, this is going to the permanent collection of the museum. Well, I donated a piece to the museum that will hang in Heritage House, It was given in honor of Masario Ludgood.
Good evening. One of the things that I've learned since I've been on the commission is that Mobile is full of just some really extraordinary individuals who have a contribution to make if you can pair them with the resources. And one of my greatest joys as a commissioner has been to be able to do that.
Good evening. You know, I've been making art now for 60 years or so. And the opportunity to do things here has really been significant because it's the opportunity to respond to a whole community in a very, very personal manner. The piece is called Threads, and it's really about the fabric of the community and acknowledging the fact that the folks who live in Africatown, the surrounding community, Mobile, they are the fabric of the community. The images that you see here were taken from 1864 photographs of the fabric that the people who came here in 1860 would have been wearing. So when you see the larger painting, it also references that in a very, very much larger scale, of course, but you can see all of that.
It's Susan Rothenberg talking about watching a friend of hers fall off of a horse, and she did a painting about that. But then she realized that that wasn't really the real painting. The real painting was her inability to do anything about her friend falling off the horse. So what I try to do in my work is ask a lot of questions. I'm not trying to provide my audience with a lot of answers. That's not my job. It never has been. I'm trying to answer questions for myself. So in inviting you into a museum, a gallery, to look at the work, my hope is that it will generate questions in you about what's being examined. It requires some work on your part, just as it did on mine. But that's as it should be. No one ever said it would be easy anyway.